Yet somewhere, niggling away in all the ideas and questions that were wandering around, lost in the abstractness, which was fast becoming his normality, one detail was bothering him. Chapter 9. A banquet of excuses, self-lies, and procrastination. Fate began to clarify just what the journey had in store for Evan. The highways of life are designed to teach you how to use your time effectively and more productively, how to set goals, and how to design a plan of action which you will use to achieve those goals. You will learn to appreciate that every decision in life made by you is a choice and that it has consequences. I will teach the young time separation how to stand firm against peer pressure, namely that Jimmy Armitage and his brother Scooby, and how to resist temptation in all his many guises. I will show you that life has many paths to travel and how best to choose the one that leads to fulfillment rather than an unrewarding and lonely life. Most of all, I will instill deep within your core the fundamental reasons and basic cause of everything which happens in your life. It dawned on Fair that he may be making Evan feel as though just about every aspect of his adult life, up until now, had been a banquet of excuses, self-lies, procrastination, and general shilly-shallying. Fair took a moment to allow Evan to absorb what had been offered to him so far, and then asked him how he felt about the proposed changes. He felt vulnerable that somebody seemed to know the intimate workings of his mind, even if that somebody was an entity named Fate. It was not so much that Fate could unravel complex emotional secrets, rather the fact that he had this ability to make Evan analyse his own fragility, weakness, and feigned contentment. He subdued his desire to object to Fate's characterisation, deciding that this was not a can of worms which he wanted to open right now, or perhaps ever at all. Evan had drifted off into a world of defensive thoughts and had not yet answered Fate's question. For a moment they stood there in silence, looking at one another, with Evan wondering what the hold-up was, while Fate was running when Evan would answer him. It was imperative that Fate received the sought-after answer to his question, as the reasoning behind Fate's intervention held the key to Evan's salvation. So he asked the question again. How do you feel about the proposed changes? Evan liked all the ideas which Fate had just put forward, even the ones which forced him to analyse his own shortcomings. Yet somewhere, niggling away in all the ideas and questions which were wandering around, lost in the abstractness, which was fast becoming his normality, one detail was bothering him. Evan could not understand why Fate was taking both of them on the journey, and not just the younger time separation of himself. He further wondered why Fate had even bothered to bring him along at all. It just didn't seem to make sense. What about me? Where do I fit into the picture? I must be here for a reason, otherwise you could have come here alone and sorted things out with the... Evan faltered briefly, wondering what name to use when referring to the boy, and then continued with the younger version of me. All of a sudden, Evan realised that he may have inadvertently passed up his chance of spending time with himself, the boy, and he began to backpedal. He then told Fate that he would of course be more than happy to escort his young self along their journey, just to keep him out of mischief, as it were. Fate smiled to cover up the uneasiness which was loitering in the background, waiting to pay his awareness a visit. In quite simple terms, he would rather take Evan along to help out with his young self, keeping an eye on him and what have you. But there was another sinister reason lurking around the corner of Evan's future, which made it essential that he accompanied Fate and Woody on their journey. Fate decided that it was in the best interest of all concerned if he kept quiet regarding the dreadful consequences of allowing Evan to go on the robbery, as opposed to accompanying him and the boy on their journey. "You are right, of course. I do need your help," Fate replied, deciding to be somewhat economical with the truth. Evan felt a surge of relief that he would not become redundant after they had spoken with his young self. Fate then went on to tell Evan of the two things which he required from him. "First, you must convince the boy who you are. That may not be easy. Then second, you have to persuade him to come travelling with me, someone he has never met and knows nothing about, on a journey of self-discovery along the highways of life." Fate paused for a moment and then added, "Mind you, that should not be too difficult. You have always been easily led." Evan looked at Fate and momentarily thought about taking exception to his remark, and then, realizing that it was probably true, he said nothing and just nodded his head instead. "Do you think you can manage to do that, convince the boy that you are one and the same person?" "I hope so," Evan replied. "It's just that I've never really done anything like this before." "Of course you have," Fate assured him. "You're always talking to yourself, aren't you? And when you have those solo conversations, they seem to sort things out, don't they? So just go over there and have a conversation with yourself." Evan thought how tuned in his new acquaintance was to Evan himself, and that he knew just which buttons to press in order to get the desired reaction. He now felt more confident about talking to the youngster, but there was still the problem of knowing how to approach him and what line of conversation would be best to get things moving. What shall I say when I get there? I mean, seriously, how am I not going to freak him out?" "You will think of something. Don't worry. You are the best person for the job. Nobody knows him better than you do. All you really need to remember is that you know things about him that nobody else could know. Therefore—" Fate left the end of the supposition hanging in the air, hoping that Evan would make a grab for it. "Therefore, wait a minute. Therefore, I have to be him, or moreover, we have to be one and the same person." Evan then started walking up towards the stepping stones, turning as he went for one last look at Fate and the hope of a final piece of advice or encouragement. Then, as though Fate had picked up on Evan's anxiety, he called out to him, "Don't worry. If you get stuck, look to yourself for the answer. Look to yourself." Evan had not realized just how helpful and precise Fate's suggestion about looking to himself when he felt stuck was going to be. After a short walk, Evan reached the stepping stones and paused for a moment. "I wonder if the middle one still wobbles," he asked of himself, rather surprised at being able to remember such a thing. Once across the water, he made his way back downriver towards the big tree and the boy, who had just pushed the remainder of his final biscuit into his mouth. The fact that Woody heard the rustle of footsteps approaching through the dry grass and the crumple of dead leaves underfoot left the boy in no doubt that Scooby and his brother had returned a little earlier than their agreed time. He looked up, expecting to see the two brothers standing there, but he saw a stranger instead. He felt alone and vulnerable.